China has banned cryptocurrency and maybe the whole idea of the digital economy moving forward. We're going to jump into it today. My name is Paul Barron. This is Tech Path. Let's kind of get into the topic. As all of you know, the markets feel like they're melting down. We're going to do another video on that, so stay tuned for that for sure. But the Chinese, essentially, the People's Republic of China have come in and put together what was a previous ban in 2017 around the whole idea of institutions utilizing virtual currencies. The new rules greatly have been expanded in terms of the scope of the prohibited services, basically saying that virtual currencies, cryptocurrencies, are not supported by real values. So this is the big thing that basically the People's Republics of China is trying to do, is protect the Chinese consumer. And the idea behind this, I believe, is really kind of pushing the digital yuan and where China is going in terms of trying to convert to a digital currency so they can make it to the world stage. There is a lot of things happening in China that will influence where cryptocurrency could be, especially around digital currency, meaning the digital yuan. And if you think about all the things, including what is happening in China in the next few years, including the Olympics, many of those big world stage type scenarios, China is definitely on a track to move in this direction. So the new ban, which was basically posted by the People's Bank of China, have also covered services that were not previously mentioned. It basically made it clear that institutions cannot accept virtual currencies or use them as any kind of means of payment or settlement. So essentially it's taking kind of the bank's side of things, financial institutions, investment houses, hedge funds, all those types of organizations essentially would not be able to utilize this. Now, they have not outlawed it for consumers or the retail investor to own cryptocurrency. My question, though, is that coming? That's going to be the big factor for China in terms of how this plays out. Now, there's a lot of things that could happen if China does do this in terms of going down to the retail investor. First of all, the amount of pain it would charge onto the Chinese economy, mainly because of the retail investor who has invested significantly in cryptocurrency as a country. So there are some benefits, or some not benefits for China if they are dealing with something that pushes this onto the retail public. The factor here, I think, is going to be more in the mining side of things, because if this starts to push into the miners in terms of them being able to, one, exchange for the digital yuan, or two, being able to just deal with cryptocurrency in general, my question will be, could they still be looking at China as an efficient, even though it would be an efficient and mining operation in terms of cost, things of that nature, still one of the best because of the hydropower there in China and the access also to cheap energy. All of that still plays into that, but there are a lot of other factors coming into the market right now when you look at where the green energy deal is moving and where Biden currently stands on trying to move this in there. There's so many factors playing into this global stage as to why China is making this move. And I do believe that China is doing this primarily to prop up their currency. So the directions were made basically in a joint statement from the National Internet Finance Association of China, which is basically their governing house of all their banks, that basically says, okay, we're not going to do this. I do see this is going to slow the action within China, mainly because of the retail investors being a little bit more skittish on being able to invest in cryptocurrency. Now, where does this play out in the overall factor of where cryptocurrency could be on a global stage? And I'm going to break into that. But if you look at some of the stories, and I want to jump over here to The Guardian, BBC. BBC essentially kind of, verifies that this is where China is going, falls further. Obviously, Bitcoin is currently in a free fall as of this morning. There are a lot of changes that are starting to happen. Bitcoin came into around the $30,000 mark. We saw a slight recovery already this morning. And, I think the biggest scenario is going to be this thing right here. This right here, it also warned against investors against speculative crypto trading. To me, this is the bigger story right here when it comes to China and banning crypto, because the next shoe that could drop is if China comes in and really puts a lot of speculative scenarios on top of the traders, retail investors in China that really starts to kind of derail their plans for the use of Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies. So I think if that is the case, then we will see another correction in the market for Bitcoin. It will be one of those things that is going to continue to move against us. The bigger factor here, I think, is what is causing all of this, other than just China. Is China the only thing that is causing this kind of fall? Right now, I would say no. If you look at where the inflation comparison is in the US, let's kind of jump to that chart right here. This shows you an inflation chart from 1960, which was really kind of, let's take a look at this. Yeah, 1960. We had very low inflation in the 60s. Then we had this nice little bump right there in the almost to 1970. You can kind of see all the way to 1980, which was essentially the spike right here that took us to 13% inflation in 1980. This was essentially one of the most difficult times, one of the biggest hardships on the economy in the United States, next to 2008, which is where you kind of see this rise right here, and then the plummet post 2008, which brought us back to negative deflation or negative inflation, which is very rare. And it's one of those things that only occurred after we saw the kind of supplement from the government that basically kind of helped the economy recover. We're essentially kind of dealing on this track right now where you kind of roll into 2019 right here. Now we're seeing a potential threat of around 2% inflation, which would be a trend up. The key here, of course, is that the Biden program could be a big stimulus to be able to help offset this. But I think what we're dealing with both on the stock market and also in cryptocurrencies as a derivative of what's happening in China is all of these things are coming to a perfect storm. So the real question is whether or not we can go back to a scenario where China is going to control the effect of what's happening in Bitcoin. I don't think they will. I think even though China is a very powerful country, the fact that they were already moving to a digital currency, I think the world stage had already kind of understood that eventually cryptocurrency would probably not be a play in China and most likely would be in all of the other countries. And this is where I think it gets very interesting in the next few years with both the US dollar, China, and also the emerging countries that are looking for a digital currency equivalent or some sort of digital asset that essentially gives them a stored value, much like Bitcoin, and a lot of the cryptocurrencies out there. This is where I think it starts to shake out. Just like we have multiple currencies across the globe, I think we're going to see power centers in cryptocurrency to continue and to expand. As I said, we're going to jump to a kind of a Bitcoin crash review, some of the things that we can do to avoid kind of losing all your money and also kind of where this direction is going. But primarily when you look at China, because we need to keep a close eye on them, because I think China will have a lot of exposure in terms of affecting other countries and how they're utilizing digital currencies in general. It may even have an effect on where miners eventually go to mine Bitcoin and also set up shop. There are a lot of things in play here that are going to play out over the next 18 to 24 months. China, of course, being one of the kingpins of this whole component. The big thing here, though, is I do not believe they are the one that will control or dictate to us where Bitcoin is going to be going. I think we'll still see the emerging countries and the emerging markets moving into the use of cryptocurrencies and other things like that, and the opportunity for these countries to really start to implement digital currencies and mining and our other operations in the crypto and blockchain space that will really start to challenge China. Because when you think about what's happening and where the US dollar is and where China is trying to take the digital yuan, there's a lot of scenarios in play of countries shuffling for position right now. And I think the next 24 months is really going to start to shake this out. We'll start to see a big scenario play out on the global stage around the digital currency markets and the shift from what could be the petrodollar to a new digital currency flat rate or a new digital currency program that would essentially affect most of the world's economies, including China, obviously with their own digital currency moving in that direction. So make sure if you're watching this right now, the main thing is China is not the dictator of where crypto is going to go. China is a domino in the game, of course, and they will have some domino effects on global currencies, especially in countries where they have a lot of control and a lot of investment. So when you look at the Middle East or you look in certain parts of Europe, there are going to be some variances there. And even to a certain extent here in the United States, there are also going to be some variances there that once that they get a stronghold on the digital yuan and the retail trader in China, then I think we have a very different kind of landscape. That has not happened yet. And the likelihood is that we'll have a lot of other digital currencies and also cryptocurrencies that will start to make plays in these different areas across the globe that will start to rival what's happening at the digital yuan. Mainly, it's not even a choice, it's because we have to move in this direction. Everybody, I think, believes and sees the future of where currency is moving, and it's moving away from the petrodollar. If it moves away from this within this decade, when you look at all the influencing factors, including the green energy deals, including the electrification of automobiles, including the innovation that's happening in the battery tech and all of the surrounding technology that helps support and prop up those industries to move to a more clean and efficient future, obviously cryptocurrency and the blockchain are going to be a huge part of that. And China, if anything, I do applaud China because they've understood where this is going early. And right now, China is in the pole position when it comes to dominating a digital currency space as we see market valuations start to develop in the next 5 years for digital currencies replacing what we know today. And that is across the traditional fiat currencies that are out there. So if you guys are watching this, or maybe you're listening to this over on the podcast, that's the takeaway from this video and this podcast, is that China is definitely on the domino table in terms of being able to affect what's happening. But I don't think, based on where we're seeing the rest of the globe moving, that China is in control at this point, even though I think they would like to be. Make sure and tune in over on the podcast. Just subscribe, give us a 5-star rating. You can also, of course, drop some comments there if you have maybe an idea that you want to send to us about a show or a topic that you'd like us to cover. You can do so by just sending us an email to producer@revernetworks.com. You can also hit me up on Twitter, and that's just @Paul Barron. Also, we have a Twitter account for the show here @TechPathTV. Don't forget, also check us out over on TikTok. And as you're watching this right now here on YouTube, make sure and hit the like button, subscribe, so you can get more notifications. We are going to be doing a ton of content throughout the week to kind of cover the recovery of Bitcoin, I believe, and where we're going to be in the near future. The number one thing is, if you are holding Bitcoin right now, congrats to you. You're making it back through the recovery, and most likely, if you're in that whole group, you're going to be okay. The scenario is if you did panic this morning and you got hit with kind of that backlash of the early sell-off, you know, those things are going to happen, and those are the kind of things that I think you have to really kind of look at your own position and understand where that's going. So stay tuned right here for more videos, because we're going to do a lot of deep dives on that very subject. Really going into a lot of the analytics. Man, it's going to be a busy week. Stay tuned right here on TechPath. We'll catch you next time.